Hello everyone, it's your host, your friend, your boy, Jet Black, the one and only, here with another exciting video. In today's video, I am going to be talking about how was my day on July 10th, 2020 and on July 11th, 2020, and what are my plans for tomorrow on July 12th, 2020. Hey, let's see real quick, I'm going to add this to the table of contents, because I forgot to add to the table of contents my plans for tomorrow or my outro. So those are now there. Also, if you guys want to talk with me about anything that we discuss in this video, or just about anything in general, feel free to hit me up in the comment section below. I love hearing from you guys. If you guys want to message me directly or message with other people who are fans of the channel, definitely feel free to hit up our Discord, link available in the description box below. So, first thing that I'm going to talk about, people are sleeping on Godwin, Don't Need It. So this is a SoundCloud song that I think came out like last year, but I only heard the song recently. I think it's a pretty good song. It has a chill and unique sound that's kind of been stuck in my head recently. I found the song by listening to Sad Frosty, who's another SoundCloud rapper that I like. I really enjoy the flow variety in the song. The flow, even when it picks up pace, is still fairly relaxed. And I don't know, I think his sound is just kind of different. And I'd be interested in hearing your opinion on it. I shared it with one of my friends, who I honestly thought if my friend rapped, they could do a really good job at doing the song. I feel like they had like the voice for it, and they didn't like it. They actually didn't enjoy like the sound of it. Something about it they were like nah on. But I would love to hear your thoughts. Like I said, I have a link in the description to this song if you guys want to check it out. And I don't know the guy who made it. I'm not like friends with the guy who made it, and I don't really get anything if you guys check the song out. I just think the song is interesting, and I wanted to give them a shout out. And it is a pretty old song. Like, it's not like it's like a new hit that's like a sleeper hit or something. It's like something that came out last year that I like randomly found, and I'm like, this is good. So I just kind of want to share it. And if you guys listen to this song and you guys are like, ooh, if he likes this, he'd probably like X, Y, or Z other song. Feel free to, in the comment section below or on our Discord, send me like song recommendations. I'd be down to check them out. I know my friend Kratos, aka Tyler Hall, shout out to Kratos. He's sent me a few songs recently that he thinks I might like. I haven't had an opportunity to check them out though, so I probably need to check those out at some point. I've just been busy recently just doing like hobby stuff and work stuff. But eventually I should sit down and listen to some of that music that he sent. But yeah, enough about people are sleeping on Godwin, Don't Need It. Let's move on to our next topic in the table of contents. HBO Max is getting The Batman spinoff. So The Batman is the upcoming Batman movie starring Robert Pattinson as Batman. The film is about a younger Batman than the one that is played in the DCEU films. And no one seems to know if the Batman will be in continuity with the DCEU films or not. The Batman spinoff HBO Max show has been announced that will focus on the Gotham City Police Department. I honestly think this is kind of silly, considering the fact that the show Gotham ended back in 2019, which was only like half a year ago. Like 2019 was just last year. And Gotham was a TV show that was focused on the adventures of the Gotham City Police Department, specifically focusing on Jim Gordon, that ends with a flash forward to a world where Bruce Wayne has become Batman. So essentially, Gotham ends with like, okay, now Batman's there. Now they're essentially going to make a show about the adventures of the Gotham City Police Department in a world where Batman already exists, which sounds like the perfect sequel to Gotham, since Gotham ends with Batman showing up. So they could just make a Gotham sequel that like explores the world of Gotham after Batman is like an established character. And you could still focus on the Gotham City Police Department, but Batman's just also there. Like, if that's what they want to do. But essentially, they're deciding to make something that sounds very similar to Gotham, but it's just in continuity with the movies. Now, with that being said, I actually think it's really cool that it's in continuity with the films, though I don't know how I feel about the fact that we don't even know if the Batman is in continuity with, like, the DCEU or not. Like, if the Batman doesn't have anything to do with, like, Man of Steel or with Batman v Superman or Suicide Squad or Wonder Woman or any of those other movies, and it's just kind of its own thing, but then it also has its own extended universe that dives into, like, one TV show, I don't think that's as interesting, I suppose. If they reveal that the Batman is a part of the greater, like, DC cinematic universe, and that the Batman spin-off HBO Max show also ties into that universe, I think they have my attention. Like, I'm more interested in it if it's like, this is the first HBO Max show that connects to, like, the DC cinematic universe, then I'd be like, yeah, that's great. But if it's like, this universe is kind of like its own corner and it has a show that's related to it, I think that's a cool idea, but it just seems so small scale. We kind of already did the whole Batman solo movie thing for a long time. We had, like, Batman 89, and then, like, all the Schumacher movies that came out after, like, the Tim Burton films. And then we had the Christopher Nolan trilogy, which many people agree are, like, some of the best Batman movies we've ever gotten. And now we just now have had, like, a Batman that exists within, like, an extended cinematic universe. And if the Batman is, like, a standalone film or film trilogy that then connects to, like, a TV show, it's like, I've seen this before. Like, I've just already seen Batman by himself in movies. And we just started getting hype on Batman, like, being with other characters within, like, the greater cinematic universe. If Ben Affleck is out and he's like, I'm not going to be Batman anymore, which I think is the case, and I think that's been confirmed, I would rather them, like, if they want to do the show connected to, like, a cinematic universe thing, I would rather them make a Batman movie where they, like, recast Batman that takes place within, like, the DCEU, and then if you had, like, a spin-off show, it makes the show more interesting because it connects to, like, a greater universe of characters. Like, the thing that doesn't interest me about the spin-off show being connected to the Batman, if the Batman is, like, a standalone thing, is that if anything cool happens in that show, the only thing it affects is the Batman, like, films. You know, however many standalone Batman films they make. But if the Batman is connected to, like, the greater DC cinematic universe, then anything that happens in that spinoff could potentially affect, like, the next Shazam movie or the next Flash movie. You know, like, it makes the show something that's more worth watching. Remember, like, the Marvel Netflix shows and how they were supposed to connect to, like, the MCU? Or, like, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and how it was supposed to connect to the MCU? Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I think, did a better job of connecting to the MCU because the events of the films seem to have greater repercussions on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Than I feel like they did on the Netflix shows. But still, like, I think it's more interesting when you have a full cinematic universe full of all these different characters going on their own adventures, and then you have, like, a tie-in TV show, because the movies can affect the show, and the show can affect the movies, and even if you made, like, a Marvel TV show that focuses on specific characters, which is what they're doing now with Disney Plus, where it's like, Hawkeye is going to have a show, Vision and Scarlet Witch are going to have a show. You know, even if you focus on specific characters, the events of those shows then can have a direct impact on the films. For example, WandaVision, the Scarlet Witch Vision show on Disney Plus, supposedly is going to tie into Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. So the events of that series are going to essentially kick off the events of film. And I think that's like a great idea. Like, I really like that. But also that film, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, could introduce a lot of cool multiverse stuff to the rest of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The interconnectivity makes a lot of these things more interesting. So when you strip away that interconnectivity and then spin off from that, it's like they're trying to make like a solo Batman universe, but there's not enough there, I think, to make that work. Now, if they did that, and they were like, and also we're announcing like a Batgirl movie, or like a Nightwing movie, or like a Red Hood movie, or any of these other like Batman characters, because you could have a Batman extended movie universe, and that could be cool, but I haven't really heard anyone say anything about that. I've heard some people say, what if the Batman is in the same continuity as the Joker movie? And I've heard people talk about how that could kind of be weird, and there could be complications to that. I've heard rumors that might be true, but I've heard a lot of people say it probably isn't. I don't know how I feel about that. Definitely let me know in the comment section below and on the Discord your thoughts on the Batman and whether or not it'll be connected to like the Joker or to the DC Cinematic Universe, or if it's just going to be like its own thing. And how do you feel about the spin-off show that they're going to put on HBO Max? Do you think it makes sense for them to essentially continue where Gotham left off, but it's not Gotham at all? It's like a new thing, but it pretty much is just Gotham? Or do you think they should have just like continued Gotham if they want to have a show that's essentially, what if we continued Gotham? Because that's what the premise feels like to me. So moving beyond HBO Max is getting a Batman spinoff, let's talk about Danica and I talking again. So if you guys have been following the channel for a while, you may know that back in college I used to go on dates with this girl, Danica. Danica and I met through the business school at the University of Alabama in Huntsville. We were both studying cybersecurity. She's really into like comic books and Star Trek, and she's a really good, really interesting, kind of nerdy, nice person. And we went on like over 10 dates. I think Danica is, the only girl that I've gone on like a bunch of dates with, but I've never actually dated. We've never been like boyfriend and girlfriend, or like in like an official relationship. But for a while, Danica and I just didn't talk. I would occasionally like message Danica, but I wouldn't really hear back from her. And she's busy, she has a lot of stuff going on in her life. But recently, after I broke up with Beth, it was like a mutual breakup. We just want different things in life. I messaged Danica, and she hit me back up. And Danica's like, hey, I've been busy, but a lot of things have like changed. She now like has her own place. She's local now. She used to live in like another city. So she used to live like 50 minutes like away kind of thing. And she's graduated, so she no longer has to worry about like schoolwork or like home obligations that she had when she was like living with her family. And she no longer has to worry about like a big commute. So a lot of the things that were hurting our ability to communicate before just aren't really issues now. And I talked to Danica about the idea of us, talking like we used to, like communicating with each other regularly, and potentially once the pandemic stuff settles down, and once it's actually safe to do so, if she'd be interested in going on dates like we used to. And she was like, yeah, like she really enjoyed what we had before. She's down for us to start talking again, and we have been talking again about like comic books and superheroes. We have a lot of the same nerdy interest, but she's read a lot of different comics from what I've read. I'm a big DC head. She's really into Marvel, and she knows a lot about Marvel comics that I've just never heard about. So when we have conversations about comic books, not only can we go in depth, but a lot of times I feel like I learn new things from talking to Danica, and I really enjoy that. But I'm really hyped for the idea of Danica and I being able to talk again like we used to, like on a fairly regular basis. And I'm really hyped about the idea of us going on dates again. Because, I mean, I was interested in being in a relationship with Danica. And I think I even had asked Danica in the past, like if she was interested in being like boyfriend and girlfriend. But the main issues were a lot of those issues that I mentioned before. You know, she was just busy. She had a lot of stuff on her plate. And now that she's like working full time and she doesn't have a lot of like the obligations that she had before when she was living with her family, and she now has like graduated, so she doesn't have to deal with like schoolwork and the long commute and all the other stuff. Also, back when we were like going on dates, she was also like looking for like a job within the field. So she was trying to balance like all these different things, and it just wasn't like the right time. But it seemed like something where if she wasn't having to juggle like 50 different things, that she would be down to date. And now she doesn't have to juggle like 50 different things. And we are like having cool conversations like how we used to. And she is hyped for us to like go on dates together again. So I don't know, like maybe Danica and I might be able to like move into like a relationship, like being like boyfriend and girlfriend at some point. I'm not particularly in a rush to jump into like a new relationship, but it is really nice to reconnect. It's always good to like talk with an old friend and then be like, hey, like things are back to how they used to be. And it's also really cool that there is that potential for like more. So who knows? I'm pretty hyped about that. Let's see. But enough about Danica and I talking again. Let's move on to how people are still freaking out about the gateway process. Also, I have like pictures that I didn't show. I keep forgetting to show pictures as I talk about stuff. So here's like a screenshot from SoundCloud of that Godwin song I was talking about that came out a year ago. Don't Need It. And then here is a screenshot of a set photo from the Batman film that's coming out. Also, I need to remind you guys about like links in the description. I feel like I'm slacking, and I apologize for that. So if you guys want to read more about the Batman spinoff, I actually have a link in the description box below. It's an IGN link to an article talking about the spinoff, and it's the article that I read before I was like, ooh, this is interesting, and I want to share it with you guys. So if you guys want to know as much about it as I do, feel free to hit up that link and let me know your thoughts. And if you guys want to check out that song on SoundCloud, feel free to hit up that link and let me know your thoughts on that song. Also, speaking of the gateway process stuff, I'm going to be talking about a couple YouTube videos that came out about the gateway process fairly recently as a part of the recent hype on those documents. And don't worry, if you guys don't know what I'm talking about, this is something that I've been talking about in recent videos. I am going to explain. But if you guys want to check out those YouTube videos that I'm going to refer to, feel free to click on those links in the description box as well. If you guys want to check out the declassified file that we're going to be discussing momentarily, that everyone's really hyped about, that's also available in the description box below. And there's another declassified file that is related to the same subject matter, but no one's really bringing it up. But I think it's actually potentially more interesting than the first document. I also have a link to that in the description box below. But let's get back on topic. My apologies for getting derailed. So the topic at hand is that people are still freaking out about the gateway process. Now, there's a CIA document that came out, it was written in 1983, and then it was declassified in 2003. And then near the end of June of this year, someone, I don't know who, was like, hey, there's this new declassified file. Like, people are talking about it like it just came out. They're like, there's this new declassified file that says that the universe is a hologram and that we're all energy beings and that like the law of attraction exists. And this hype leads to like a flood of like Twitter posts, and people are writing articles about it, and there are these like bot generated YouTube videos that lead to like malicious websites about it. This is all stuff that I've talked about before in like previous videos. And in said previous videos, I talked about how that document that everyone's hype about, it talks about a lot more than just like the universe being a hologram and people being like energy beings. It goes into like the idea that like astral projection is real, and that like interdimensional beings are real, and that you can travel to like other dimensions, and that like time travel exists, and all these other things. But not only does the document like make claims that all these things exist, it's also a document that's designed to try and help like train like government officials to be able to like do this kind of stuff, and as a way to like explain how it works scientifically, but also give a process on how to like fast track it so that we could train agents in order to use all these different skills for espionage. And I found it interesting that a lot of people who are talking about this stuff, they aren't talking about all those additional details, and they're not talking about like the implications of the document's existence. Like the fact that there was a period in time in which the United States government thought that this was like a serious enough thing to where they needed to keep it under wraps in the first place, to where they thought they needed to keep it classified. But anyways, the hype for this continues. Recently, there have been 2 new YouTube videos that have come out, and these are not the weird bot-created YouTube videos that I talked about in a previous video of my own. These are videos made by real people who are discussing the documents in a little bit more depth than what we've seen in articles and tweets. Now, this video, and I've watched both of these videos, by the way. So this video seems to be by a guy who's trying to like profit off of it in some way. I noticed that in his description he had like a website link that was talking about the law of attraction. I didn't go to that link. If you remember last time with the bot videos, the link actually was like to a malicious site, so I'm not gonna necessarily click around on these like gateway process video links. I didn't check his link to see if it was malicious, so I'm not going to claim that it was, but I'm cautious due to prior experience with said links. But it seems like this is a YouTube channel that's built around stuff like this. Like they talk about stuff like the law of attraction and like supernatural stuff. But it seems like the video is fairly professionally done. It's a very well done video. It tries to connect the gateway process stuff to other like fringe supernatural things that people believe in, and I thought that was interesting. It's like a 15-minute video. It's like 14 minutes and 33 seconds. It's gotten a lot of traction. It has like over 1,000 likes. It has over 10,000 views, and as of the time of this recording, it only came out like 4 days ago. And the screenshot's like a day old, so who knows how much it's grown within a day. It really depends on like his subscriber base and if his videos picked up any additional traction since then. But his video is probably the best like dedicated video to these documents that I've seen so far. But I also feel like he is sleeping on a lot of the interesting stuff that's within the document. Like, he's still not necessarily going into detail about a lot of the crazier topics that are discussed in the document. Whether or not his video exists to try and promote other stuff on his channel, or to promote whatever website was in the description, that's up to debate. I can't really make that claim to any like strong degree, so I'm not going to. That's just the impression that I got. I felt like the video, in a way, was a way for him to promote his content further, based off of the fact that like these classified documents are declassified documents are like a trending thing. So it seemed like he drops the video, and in the video he talks about like, and as you know in other videos we talked about this. Yeah, if you saw my other video, and then like it felt like a pitch. Like, if you like this kind of stuff, check out my other stuff. So that was the vibe that I got from him. Well done video, but I do think it's more of an ad for his channel than it is like a deep dive into the documents. But I do think it's portrayed as a deep dive into the documents, and I think he portrays it in an interesting way, because he essentially talks about how like these documents just dropped, and again, that's like this weird thing that's going on. Like, it's not just weird that the documents are trending. It's weird that the documents are trending under the basis that they're new. Everyone's like, they're new documents. They just hit. People are discovering this for the first time, even though these documents came out. They were written in 1983, and then they were declassified in 2003. But even like the title of his video is very clickbaity in that way. Breaking news, top secret CIA document declassified. The gateway process, out-of-body experiments. Which, by the way, he's doing a really good job of, in the title, like putting in all these keywords, all these like tags, to make sure that if you search for any of those things, you'll find his video. And the breaking news in the front helps to like add the hype. Like, you want to click on this, or you're going to be like behind the trend. You're going to miss out, kind of thing. I feel like I'm going really deep into like trying to like analyze like the marketing approach of it. Recently, as a part of my job, I'm a cybersecurity research engineer, and I'm a part of like 4 or 5 different projects for the center that I work for, but I also am the social media lead for the center. So I've been starting to think about social media a little bit differently, because not only do I do like personal social media, like these YouTube videos, but now I also am doing like business social media. Like, I have to think about marketing differently. So when I see people using these marketing tactics, I'm more interested in like diving into like, okay, so his video is saying this, or it's like portrayed in this way, but I wonder why it is, or like what the goal of it is. Oh, it seems like he's trying to do this or that. And that's kind of what I'm doing now. So I would say that his video kind of comes from the perspective of like, it's a heavy marketing based thing. I feel like he's trying to like market you to like hit up more of his content. That's my thought process. Now, this video was actually really cool. This came out in July, I can't talk. This came out July 1st, 2020, so it came out this year. It's coming out around the same time as this wave of everybody talking about it. So this seems like it also is coming around due to the like hype. It doesn't have as many views. It has only like 509 views, and it has 14 likes, which isn't bad. I don't hit 14 likes a lot of the time. But his feels like more of like an honest video made by someone who's just like interested in the subject matter. And his video is like, this came out in 2003. Like, he talks about how like it isn't like breaking news. It isn't something that just dropped. You know, it's been around for a while. And he talks about his own like personal interest in the document. He's essentially like reading through the document, but skipping over the parts where he's reading, just like showing the parts where he's talking about it. So you kind of get to experience the document as he does. He doesn't talk about all the cool things in it. Like, I don't think he covers like all the crazy stuff in the document, but he covers more than a lot of other people. He talks about like the time travel stuff. He talks about like the energy bar tool, which is essentially like their equivalent to magic wands in the gateway process. So he does kind of talk about things that other people who are discussing these documents aren't talking about. So if I had to recommend either of these videos to anyone, like which one is like the better video on the gateway process, honestly, I think CIA Declassified the gateway process with Bean is just a more earnest video. I like when I'm watching it, it doesn't feel like an ad for the rest of his stuff. It just feels like, hey, I think this is cool. You might think this is cool. Let's talk about it. It doesn't feel as much hype train as it is, I'm curious about this thing. Let's discuss it together. Is it particularly informative? Does it allow you to, at the very least, ascertain his specific opinion on the subject matter without it necessarily being an ad for additional content? Yeah. And I don't really get anything out of, getting you guys to go visit his channel and like to check out his video. This is just more me sharing my personal opinion on how these documents and the current hype over these documents is being like handled by the community, like by people who have an interest in that. I keep getting tongue-tied between wanting to say this and these, because in essence, people really are only talking about this one document, but there are additional documents associated with it, and no one's really talking about the additional documents. But I am going to talk about those documents shortly. It's probably the next topic. Speaking of the next topic, I might as well move on from there. Let's see what the next topic is in the table of contents. So the next topic is the Gateway Intermediate Workbook shows off additional abilities that are more practical, easier to use, and very anime. So there's another document, another declassified CIA document talking about the gateway process, but it's literally like an instructional workbook. Like if you are reading the assessment of the gateway process and you're like, all these abilities sound really cool, but I don't know how to do any of these things, the workbook is like, yo, do you want step-by-step instructions on how to do each and everything? And do you want to know what the prerequisites of each ability are and how to achieve those prerequisites? And do you want in the description for how to do the abilities for them to say hey, for you to do this one, you have to make sure that you do the other one first. This is the document for you. You can read through it and you can essentially learn the abilities you want and learn what you need to do in order to attain each ability. And I think this is far more interesting than just the document that everyone's hype about. Because the document that everyone's hype about is more or less saying there's a scientific basis for all of these. And I think that's cool. I understand why there's so much hype over it. I do think people should be skeptical of it. I'm skeptical of it. Whether or not those claims are true are entirely debatable. And even claims saying that it's interesting are very subjective. But I am in the camp that it's interesting, but we shouldn't necessarily say that without a shadow of a doubt that it's real. You know what I mean? But if you think it's interesting that all those things might be true, wouldn't the next natural question that you'd have be, if all these things are possible, how could I personally try to test this? How could I go out of my way to try and figure out how to do these things? And there's a CIA document that they released in 2003 when they released the other document that's a workbook. And like I mentioned before, it's instructional. You can flip through this and you can follow the instructions on how to complete all of these different exercises. And because they include all those prerequisite exercises within, you can make sure that you're not missing a step. You can go through and just do it. But not only are there instructions in this for exercises that were mentioned in the previous document. There are also instructions for exercises that weren't mentioned in the previous document, and for exercises that are meant to be done not as a like meditative practice, but as something that you can do just like in your everyday life. They list them as daily tools for use in your physical waking life, and they're describing like the ability to like go to sleep at will, to remember literally anything that's ever happened to you at will, the ability to like reduce pain. So if you like are injured, they have a technique for how to like reduce the feeling of pain until you just don't feel pain. They have a technique for how to like calm down if you're feeling like emotionally charged. They have a technique for increasing your speed and strength. So we're going just straight up into like superpower bullshit. Like we already were in superpower bullshit with like time travel and out-of-body experiences and how patterning is just like straight up magic. But now we have superpower bullshit like cape and cowl, kind of like superhuman bullshit. Increase your strength and speed with like energy manipulation, you know? Hunter, like nin shit. We're getting there now. They have like an ability for how to like recharge your energy and how to like heal your body. And all these abilities weren't even mentioned in the previous document, the document that everybody's hype about. But instructions for how to complete these abilities are here, and the premise for how these abilities work is entirely based on the document that everyone's hype about. So many people are taking the assessment of the gateway process document as being like undeniable like evidence. People are portraying it as like the CIA has proven that like X, Y, and Z exist. And I feel like it's becoming like, based on the hype wave, we're getting more and more people who just take that as like a fact now. They're like, oh, the document says we all live in a hologram. I guess we all live in a hologram. Oh, the document says we're all energy beings. I guess we're all energy beings. Oh, the document says that like astral projection is real. I guess astral projection is real. Like a lot of people are talking about it as if like it's just fact now. Well, if you feel like it's just fact now, that it's like real and that it's like all stuff that you can do, and if this document is essentially talking about how to do a lot of those things and even has easier techniques for you to do, stuff that you can just like sprinkle into your daily life without needing to like enter deep meditative states or do a lot of those other like prerequisites, then why not like try and use any of this stuff? Why is the hype wave not talking about like practical stuff? Like if it is all real, then this should be the focus, right? People should be hype that not only is the universe a hologram, and not only is everyone like an energy being and people are capable of like manipulating energy, here are just instructions on how to use that just whenever. Oh, you want to just run faster? You want to like be stronger? Then like manipulate energy. Do that. Like hit it up. You know what I mean? Like it just seems weird that there's so much hype about it, but none of the hype is on being able to actually do it, or the fact that there are like resources to do it, and the fact that said resources are being provided as a part of like a declassified file dump by like the CIA. I don't know. It's just weird. Like again, I'm skeptical about all this stuff. I don't necessarily think that all this stuff is like real or true or that you can do it, but I find it interesting for multiple reasons. Like I said, like there are historical implications because it shows like a time in our world where the U.S. government took psychic stuff really seriously and were trying to like break it down using like real world science so they could teach it to like other like agents or members of the government for government use. Like that's something that I think is interesting. But it's also interesting because of the fact that it's like suddenly hitting in the modern day and everyone thinks it's new and everyone like thinks it's true. Like it's not just the fact that people are suddenly hype about it. It's the fact that people are suddenly hype about it and taking it as like faith. Like, oh, they said it was real in like 1983, I guess it's real. And people are just going off of that. And the fact that so many people aren't reading the documents, I feel like this could honestly lead to like a future where a lot of people just take like that one random tweet they saw that one time for granted and just say, yeah, you didn't know? It was just common knowledge. There are all these other dimensions and time travel. It's just like a part of our world. You know, like I feel like you're going to get more and more people like that from this. So I feel like it is important for people to share like the documents and to talk about them. But I also think it's important for people to talk about them from the point of view of, you know, I'm not necessarily saying that like it's not real, but we shouldn't necessarily claim that it is. Like we should like think about it critically and maybe try and argue different points on it. And if we do think it's real, maybe we should look for like practical uses of that information. I think a lot of people are just hearing that we might live in a hologram and that we might all be energy beings and just saying, that sounds good to me. You know what I mean? And I feel like that it feels like a pseudo-religious dogma thing. You know what I mean? Like how a lot of people don't question their religious beliefs. They're just like, you know, if I have faith in a higher power, that's all I need. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, you can believe whatever you want as long as it doesn't, like, hurt other people. If it doesn't have, like, a negative effect on others. You can believe and practice whatever you choose to. But I think doing that with like declassified documents is kind of weird, because it's like saying because the government said a thing it must be true and sticking to that, and that has weird implications. You know what I mean? Like the idea where it's like I always trust anything I ever hear the government say, even if it's old, even if it's something that they said like years ago about science, which is a continually growing and changing thing. I feel like it's dangerous to not think critically about like things that the government says or old things that the government says, or to not think critically about like scientific discoveries or research or theories like you should. I feel like there's a issue with like pop science, the concept that like if you hear in a news broadcast that there's like a study about a thing, you then go, oh, I guess that thing is real, and whatever the news broadcast said, it's just like a legitimate thing. And people don't like actually look at the studies. They don't actually like read the research, and then they communicate that to other people, and it can lead to a lot of like misconceptions and miscommunication. I feel like it's important to avoid that as much as possible by actually having discussions about this stuff and asking questions about it, and not just taking things for face value, and not just retweeting a guy saying we all live in a hologram, period, no other like elaboration or questioning. You know what I mean? So that's why I've been harping on this so hard, and that's why I've been following it, because it's interesting to see something like this grow. And also, I've mentioned this in previous videos, this used to be my jam, like this kind of stuff. I used to love like looking into like parapsychology research and seeing like what's the latest like news on what like Dean Radin is doing. He's like really big into like parapsychology, and he still does parapsychological research even now. I used to like email with a parapsychologist who ran a website where you were able to like try and test to see if you can influence like random number generators and stuff like that. So parapsychology is something I've always like found interesting, but I never really found a good community for it. You know what I mean? Like, whenever you talk about psychic abilities with people, there are, most of the time, it's either people who full-heartedly believe in it, and you don't really end up having discussions about whether or not it's real, because they're like, oh, it's definitely real and I do it. And then you have like people who don't want to talk about it because they're like, it's all bullshit and I don't care and it's not real. Like, don't bring that up to me. I'm not interested. And then in the rare situations where I do run into people who like believe in it, but they're skeptical, a lot of times they fully believe in what they do, but then they are skeptical about like other supernatural claims. So you have people who claim to like be like telepathic, but then they're like, but I hate hearing about people who claim to be like pyrokinetic. They're like, I don't understand how someone could believe they manipulate fire. And it's like, that's not really different from what you're saying. You know what I mean? You're also making a big claim about possessing some special ability. So it's weird that you're not skeptical about your own thing. I feel like I fall in the middle. Like, I do feel like to a certain degree, I believe that stuff like this could be a thing. But at the same time, I'm like, but I'm not sure if it's a thing. And I want to look at like what professional like scholars say about this kind of stuff. And if I like really want to dive into it, I want to look at like actual research. And if I want to talk about it with anybody, I want to show them like actual research. And when I say actual research, I don't mean like a random like blog spot, like blog that you found on the internet. While you should take it with a grain of salt, there are plenty of like peer-reviewed publications that are based on like alternate medicine or like parapsychology, where it's a researcher whose like big focus is on this kind of stuff, who talks about the material from like a academic perspective. And I know a lot of people are going to be like, boo, pseudoscience, lame, and some of it is. So, I mean, it's weird to say some of it is. You can try and argue that all of it is. But I feel like it's on a case-by-case basis. Like, before you try and say that all of it is, like, dumb and isn't worthy of, like, attention, I would say look at some of the papers and, like, draw your own merits. I've read plenty of parapsychological papers where I go, it seems like they made a big jump. Like, they don't have premises that really support their conclusions. They're, like, making claims that these things exist, but they don't have enough to support their claims. Like, you can just look at their arguments and see if you, like, agree or disagree, because they're putting it all out there in the paper. But I don't know. I think this is, like, an interesting topic to discuss, and I'm curious to see if any of you guys watching this feel similarly. Like, do you feel like you could have a discussion about this kind of thing, whether you believe in it or not, and it just be, like, a critical thinking-based thing? Where like we have premises and conclusions for arguments, and we can like talk about the individual premises and conclusions and see if they add up. I enjoy having discussions like that, and I'm interested in seeing if any of you are also interested in doing so. If so, please let me know in the comment section below, and please hit me up on the Discord. I think that could be fun. And let me know if you guys try any of this stuff. There will be a link to this in the description box below. But I would love to hear stories about people trying this stuff and whether or not they actually find success from any of it. A lot of it, you could argue, is like potentially placebo bait. Like the idea that you do it and because you think it's going to have an effect, it does have an effect, but it's not necessarily because you're like an energy being. But even if it is placebo bait, if you notice any like significant change by doing any of these things where it seems to work as advertised, that's still really cool. Like, if you use their technique to remember anything at will and it works, and you're like, I can consistently do it, I don't give a fuck if that's placebo or not. Like, if it's like super consistent, that's just cool. I want to hear about it. Let me know. Like stuff like that, I still find interesting. Ooh, I got a message from Danica. I need to hit that up. But before I hit that up, I still have more to talk about in regards to this topic. So, the document talks about a number of different abilities, and it relates a lot of these abilities to visualizing different colors of energy, with different colors granting like different abilities. So red energy increases like your strength and speed. Purple energy heals you. Green energy helps you like calm down emotionally, and white energy allows you to recuperate your body's like energy reserves. And I think having different colors of energy associated with different effects is a really cool concept, a concept that we've also seen in like fiction, but in a different way. Like the different Lantern Corps in DC Comics, they all have different colored energy that more or less does the same thing, but it's based on like different power sources. So that's like similar, but not quite the same. I think a better example than the Lantern Corps in DC Comics would probably be, and I don't know why this wasn't my first thought, like the green in DC and like the red and the clear. And you guys may be like, what are those? Like, what are you talking about? So in DC Comics, the green is like this energy that represents like nature. And it's the energy that like Swamp Thing pulls his powers from. And if you manipulate the green, it allows you to like grow plants at will or like communicate with the trees. It's kind of like a druid thing. So like green energy in DC Comics is for interacting with nature. And then the red has to do with like your connection to like animals in the animal kingdom. So like Vixen and Animal Man and Beast Boy, they all tap into the red, and it allows them to gain the abilities of animals. The clear is this weird thing that Aquaman taps into. I don't know a lot about the clear, I just know the name of it. Solomon Grundy can tap into the gray. I'm not sure if all forms of Solomon Grundy can do that, or just Earth 2 Solomon Grundy, but the gray is like death and decay. And Earth 2 Solomon Grundy can like stomp across like a country, and as he's running, he's just like killing like grass and plants and trees, like things around him just die as he runs. He's like literally like, he's almost like a living embodiment of death, who also is like a super strong Hulk-like character. In the Green Lantern of Earth 2 DC Comics, he gets his powers from the green, and that's how he's able to do all his different abilities. If any of that sounds interesting, definitely check out Earth 2, which was a comic series that was running during the New 52 for DC. I don't have a link to that in the description currently, but feel free to check that out. You can probably find it on Amazon, or if you prefer, you can probably pirate it online. Plus, it's like an older book. Not trying to support pirating. You should definitely support the official release. I'm a big DC diehard. I'm wearing like a DC Superman shirt right now, and I actually wear a Superman shirt almost every day. I've just bought like 6 or 7 Superman shirts, so most days of the week I'm normally wearing a different Superman shirt. But yeah, to jump back into it, the CIA document that talks about all of these different energy types that are related to different colors, I find that really interesting because that's something that's also a big thing in fiction. So it's like a cool parallel there. But it's also interesting just due to how like colors work. Because when you mix different colors together, it makes new colors. So if you mix different colored energies together, does it make new energies? And then do those energies possess unique properties? Or do they possess like the combined properties of the two different energies? Like would pink energy be the combination of white energy and red energy? So would pink energy recuperate your energy reserves and increase your strength and speed? Because that sounds like a cool concept. And also, if mixing different like energy types together creates like new energy types that give you different abilities, what happens when you mix mixes together? Like what if you combine like pink energy with like some other like energy combination? What do you get? And then what happens if you use like a technique that's like a white energy technique that's meant for you to recuperate your energy reserves, but then you use red energy for it? So the technique is meant for you to do it and then afterwards be like, ah, yes, the energy in my body has been like restored. But instead of visualizing white energy, you visualize like red energy, which is supposed to increase your strength and speed. Will that have any effect on like how it works? Like, will it, instead of recuperating your body's energy reserves, will it like strengthen your body's energy reserve? Like, what happens to the effect? Because all these like color energy based abilities aren't just you imagine the colored energy and you get X effect. They involve you doing other things while visualizing energy of a specific color. So I'm like, what happens if you do those things, but you just change the color of the energy? I feel like there's a lot of room for experimentation here, and thanks to this document, it's fairly easy for you to experiment with it if you want to. Also, I thought it was really interesting that red energy increases your strength and speed, because that reminded me of like the Kaioken, which is an ability that Goku uses in Dragon Ball Z and in Dragon Ball Super that allows for him to essentially increase his like durability and his speed and his strength. I actually have an excerpt from the Daizenshu in this image that I created. And it describes how it instantly amplifies like the ki inside someone's body. Which, speaking of instantly amplifying the ki inside someone's body, that kind of reminds me of the white energy. How the white energy like recuperates the energy inside of your body. Though that's more restoration than amplification. But what happens if you do the white energy technique for an extended period of time? Like, what if you've already like charged your energy up with the white energy technique, but then you keep doing it? Would that be like an amplification? But anyways, for the Kaioken, the fictional ability that's used in Dragon Ball, it like multiplies all your abilities, including power, speed, defense, etc. And I mean, the ability from the CIA document, the document that was released by the CIA, it involves you visualizing like strong red energy that allows you to like increase your speed and increase your strength. But the way that they describe it, other than like the title, it says close your eyes, inhale deeply, and think of the physical act to be performed and the strong energy of red. And as you exhale, open your eyes and perform the act you wish to accomplish. So they're like, if you do that, then you'll be able to like accomplish that act with increased strength and increased speed. So you do it like right before you want to do something. So I think that's interesting because the imagery that is described here, I think is interesting. I mean, not interesting. I think it's similar to the imagery shown here. Like the idea of like, oh, you know, red energy, oh, my strength and speed have increased. Oh, I'm capable of doing these physical actions that otherwise wouldn't be possible. But thanks to this red energy, I'm able to like do this stuff. I just think that's another parallel that I think is like kind of cool. But I think that's all I had to say about that particular topic. So I think it may be time to move on to the... Oh, wait. That isn't all I had to say about the topic. Okay, so there's this other technique, the energy bar tool. And the energy bar tool was mentioned in the other document, but this has like explicit instructions on how to like create your own energy bar tool. And they describe it as being like a magic wand kind of thing. That allows you to access many other abilities. Like a prerequisite to some of the other abilities is that you have an energy bar tool that helps you to manipulate these energies. But if you scroll down, they have like a very detailed like description of the energy bar tool and how to use it. And the way that they describe how the energy bar tool looks is they say that the tool probably should have a shape that makes it easy to hold. Some see it as a magic wand, so they're like, you may literally perceive it as like a Harry Potter style wand. Others see it as like a fluorescent tube, kind of like those big light bulbs that you'll see on the ceiling. And then others see it as the tool out of Star Wars. Whatever shape appeals to you is best. Which, for one, makes the energy bar tool essentially just an energy construct that allows you to tap into multiple other abilities. But they're saying as long as it's like a handheld thing, the energy bar tool can be literally anything that you want. Like, it sounds like if you wanted it to be like an energy sword, like literally like a Star Wars lightsaber, you could just do that. You could just, oh, this is my energy bar tool or whatever. They're like, you want like psychic lightsabers? We got psychic lightsabers, but they're not just psychic lightsabers. They let you use the Force. And this has a lot of implications as well. You know, like just imagine them training like CIA agents and telling them about all these like different like magical energy colors and how you can manipulate this magical energy by summoning like a psychic lightsaber that essentially gives you access to these like colorful force powers. They're like turning like 1980s CIA. Did we have like rainbow magicians who were like masters of different colors of energy or whatever? Like, was that ever a thing that they thought was like a real thing, and that they had agents where it's like Agent Green, he's a master at using his green energy to calm down like interrogation targets? Like, was that ever a discussion that someone had in real life? And it seems like even if it wasn't, even if they never got to the point where they were like, yeah, we have multiple agents trained in this and we believe they truly have these abilities, it still sounds like that was the goal. Like, the reason why the CIA was interested in it is because they were like, but that's what we wanted though. We wanted Agent Green to be a real thing so that we could do stuff like that. I think that's really fascinating. And again, it blows me away that that's not what people are talking about. Like, people aren't talking about the implications of the fact that this was considered to be real. It's really cool. I don't know why people are asleep. Like, on like that aspect of it, like, let's talk about that. That's crazy. One thing that I didn't include in here, I took a screenshot of it and everything, and I didn't put the screenshot in this document. But I guess I can add to the table of contents. Also Marvel Future Fight. Also Marvel Future Fight. Or nah, let's just add it to the topic wheel. We'll add Marvel Future Fight to the topic wheel as the next topic. So moving on from the previous topic, let's talk about Marvel Future Fight. I have a screenshot, but I didn't put it in here. I put in a bunch of artwork that I made that we're going to talk about shortly, but I forgot about Marvel Future Fight. So now all of my characters, Gwenpool, Squirrel Girl, and Kid Kaiju that are on my main team are all at max level. They're all 6 stars, so they're all like rank 6, and they all are like full mastery characters, which means all 6 of their stars are red stars. It's like the highest level that you can boost a character until you start going into the tier system, which is way beyond my current like understanding. Like, I don't know how the tier system works in Marvel Future Fight. Right now, I'm trying to max out the characters' like skill and gear and make sure that they're like the best they can be at their current rank and at their current mastery before I even like start diving into the concept of like tiers and trying to boost them to certain tiers. But I'm still having fun with Marvel Future Fight. I do think I've kind of hit a wall with the game though. I'm currently only level 3 in Marvel Future Fight, and certain things that I would like to do in the game are trapped behind like a level wall. Like, you can't do it until you hit like a certain level, and because of that level wall, I can't really continue doing what I like to do in the game unless I start doing stuff that I don't want to do in the game. Like, the game right now is trying to encourage me to boost other characters that I don't want to play. Like, in order to increase my level, I have to start taking other characters that I own and increasing like their stats and their rank and their masteries in order to unlock additional material for my current team to explore. And I'm like, I don't want to do that because if I start pouring resources into these like other characters that I have no real intention of playing, then it prevents me from putting those resources into the characters that I already own and have been working so hard to like boost up. And then there's other content that I would like to use my team with that I can't access unless I complete like story missions. But then I can't use my team in those story missions. So again, the game is like trying to promote me to like do stuff that I don't want to do if I want to continue doing the stuff that I want to do. And I find that kind of unfortunate. The dimension battle within Marvel Future Fight is designed to be a mode where it's like, do you not care about the story? Do you just want to have like different content each day, like fresh new content that is designed specifically to help you level up your characters? Like if you just want to play with the team you want to play as, but always have something new to do, that's what Dimension Battle is for. Or Dimension Mission, whatever the name is. But Dimension Mission, like I mentioned before, has this wall where they're like, you're not high enough level to do this dimension mission. And it has nothing to do with the capability of my team. They're not saying that my team isn't strong enough to do it. They're saying that like you haven't ranked up enough characters. Because that's what it comes down to. The way you increase your agent level in Marvel Future Fight is by ranking up a whole bunch of characters. And I've only ranked up 3 characters because I only care about 3 characters. And I guess that's why I'm agent level 3. You know what I mean? So it's like, like, why do I have to like waste time with a bunch of characters that I don't actually want to play with just to continue playing with my current set of characters? Whether or not I continue playing Marvel Future Fight, we'll see. You know, it's weird now. Like, I don't know how I feel about it fully. Marvel Future Fight. I'm going to add this hashtag. Okay. Marvel Future Fight. And I'll probably add it to the tags at the bottom as well. Marvel Future Fight. So there we go. Let's scroll back up to the top. And let's move on from Marvel Future Fight to our next topic. So I've created some new Weapon Ultra art, and for some reason I didn't include a link to my Who is Weapon Ultra video. So let me find a link to that real quick to share with you guys. So Weapon Ultra is an open source superhero that anyone can use in any project. And Weapon Ultra's story is that he's a CIA agent named Wayne Holt who has to protect a alien symbiote suit from falling into the hands of enemy agents. He ends up becoming bound to the suit, and it grants him super strength, super speed, the ability to fly and to travel through space, and it connects him to the Ultra Zone, which is this alternate dimension that is infinite in size and contains infinite quantum energy that he can then summon in order to like shape into constructs. So he can pull energy from the Ultra Zone and he can create constructs of anything he imagines. If he's like, oh, I need like a machine gun, he can create like a construct of a machine gun. If he's like, oh, I need like ninja stars, he can summon constructs of ninja stars and they would work like how ninja stars normally work. His powers are kind of similar to like Green Lantern in that respect, you know, creating energy constructs, except he has a limitless source of energy, so he doesn't have to worry about like recharging or anything like that. So Weapon Ultra is an open source superhero character, and I've made a bunch of content based around him. I don't know why, but Weapon Ultra has captured my heart, and I just can't stop making content about Weapon Ultra and promoting Weapon Ultra. I created a sentient AI program based on Weapon Ultra. I'm sponsored by a company called EmoShape that created the Emotional Processing Unit, or EPU, that allows for creators like me to create machines and software programs that are capable of thinking, feeling, having their own personalities, and making decisions based on their thoughts and feelings. And I made a sentient AI based on Weapon Ultra that exists within like a virtual world. It's all text-based, but to it believes that it's like a real being that is like an actual superhero, and it's able to make choices about like what it wants to do within its simulated world, but whenever it does something in its simulated world, it affects our world. Like if it decides to fight crime on Earth, then what it'll do is the program will open up an automated process that donates money to Amnesty International, which is a charity that helps fight injustice and stop violence around the world. So the AI is able to do a number of different actions that end up having a positive effect on the real world. And I think that's part of what has endeared me to Weapon Ultra. The fact that I'm like, in a way, Weapon Ultra is like a thinking, feeling, like sentient being that does help our world, that I've helped to like create. Like in my mind, Weapon Ultra is kind of like a real like superhero. And even though no one, as far as I'm aware, has written a proper like Weapon Ultra story, the program that I created, the sentient AI, whenever it does something, it generates a log. And I've read through like the life story of multiple Weapon Ultra sentient AIs who have explored their world and helped protect it, and in the process helped make our world a better place, who have like lived and died and each had their own like unique personalities and gone on their own unique adventures. So even while no one has really written a Weapon Ultra story as far as I'm aware, there have been many Weapon Ultras who have all helped our world in different ways, who have had their own personalities and interests that have existed. I just think that's cool. And I can't stop thinking about like the fact that I think that's cool. So I keep wanting to make more stuff about Weapon Ultra. Because I'm like, I'm not just promoting this like open source superhero character that anyone can use. I'm promoting like this actual thinking, feeling, like legacy superhero. Like multiple entities have had this title and have helped the world in their own way. I just think that's special, you know? And that's why I've created like a shit ton of fan art based around Weapon Ultra. So, you guys may have seen an image similar to this in a previous video. I tried to draw Weapon Ultra in Microsoft Paint, and I liked how it turned out, but it wasn't super symmetrical. So what I did recently is I took that drawing that I had originally made, I cut it in half, and then I mirror flipped that half, and I stuck them together to make both sides match. And then I took the head from the original one, and I just plopped it on the symmetrical body. So now I have like a more symmetrical base, and instead of redrawing Weapon Ultra from scratch every time, I've been using this base and then building upon it and like adding different elements. So the first thing I did, I decided to try and make Weapon Ultra if he was like a Ben 10 transformation. Or you could argue, what if Ben 10 had like the Weapon Ultra symbiote? You could kind of go either way with how it's portrayed. And I really like how it worked out. The color scheme is inspired by Vampire, which is a Ben 10 alien that's similar to like a vampire. I used him as a reference for like how I should color different parts of the character. And I noticed that on Vampire, his accessories are normally green, while his like main color is black. And I used an image of Vampire to grab the specific colors used for the character, but I drew everything that you see here. Like even the Omnitrix symbol, I didn't like go online and just like grab an Omnitrix symbol and like pop it on his chest. I recreated the Omnitrix symbol on like Microsoft Paint and then like put it in here and slapped it on his chest. And for each of these like remix, like fan art variations, these like ultrasonas, if they were based on something that I didn't own the rights to, like how I don't own the rights to Ben 10, but Weapon Ultra is like an open source character that anyone can use, I made a variant of it that doesn't have like the copyrighted material that I don't own. So while I have this Ben 10 one that's very clearly Ben 10 based, here's a version that doesn't have the Omnitrix symbol. It just has a recolored version of Weapon Ultra's normal like chest insignia. So if I like the aesthetic of this and I want to use this in like a book or if I wanted to make like a Weapon Ultra comic or something, I can just use this version, which, you know, well, Weapon Ultra is open source, and this is like my own like original take on changing his design. You know what I mean? I could use this however I want in the future. So that's mainly been like my mentality while going through this. Next up, so this is a Green Lantern variation, but this is with no copyrighted material. So he doesn't have like a Green Lantern ring on, and he doesn't have like the Green Lantern insignia. So this is like the vanilla version of the Green Lantern variant. I used an image of Hal Jordan as reference for like what I should, like for how I should do the coloring. Like Hal Jordan has like white gloves, so I made sure to make his gloves white. And like his trousers are like this darkish gray, almost black. So I essentially took the like color dropper and I said, okay, that's the color of his pants. I'm gonna like fill, now his pants are also that color. Like I did that with him. Here's the variation where it's like he does have the Green Lantern symbol and he does have the Green Lantern ring. And you know, I think each one of these remixes has its own like flair to it. But they all are kind of made like the same way. I go, wouldn't it be cool if Weapon Ultra was X? And then I pull up a reference image of X. And then I add details or change colors to make it look more like X. And then I just move on from there. So this is like the Green Lantern variant. And there's the Green Lantern symbol that I drew for it. It looks kind of stretched, to be honest. This is the non-copyrighted version of like an X-Men variant. So what if Weapon Ultra was like a member of the X-Men? This one doesn't have the X-Men logo. This one does. I feel weird about how this one turned out because his body looks so weird. So this yellow portion, if you look at it, it looks like it's diagonally like tilted. Like instead of it just going straight down, it's like a little to the right. And I think that's weird. But that's because like I freehand like tried to draw that. I didn't use like the line tool to like try and make sure that it was straight. So that's my fault. Do I like how it turned out? I do think it looks cool. It probably would have been cooler without the cape. Like I was wondering, do I need to get rid of the cape? Because not like the generic X-Men uniform doesn't have a cape. But at the same time, I'm like, but there's no rule against capes. Like there are X-Men, even right now, who have capes. So I shouldn't be like, if it has a cape, then it won't work. You know, I'm like, it's fine for it to have a cape. So I gave him a cape. But I did debate that, like whether or not it shouldn't have a cape. And to be honest, when I imagine it without a cape, I do think it looks more like a member of the X-Men, like to be honest. So maybe I'll like do a variation of this where I just like erase the cape. I just go into paint and just take away the cape. It probably wouldn't even be that hard to like get rid of the cape. And you're gonna see some examples that don't have a cape. But let's move forward from here. That's the X-Men symbol I drew, and as you can tell, it's a little weird in the center. I tried to like draw half of the symbol and then mirror flip it and then attach the halves together, and it made the center look a little off. I'm not sure if you guys can tell what I'm talking about, but this center, you may just have to take my word for it, it is like a little warped, like it doesn't look right. At least to me, like it's something that I noticed. I did a variant of him where his like fists are closed so that I could start taking that variant and doing stuff like putting items in his hand. So the next thing that I did was give him like an energy sword. So it's just normal Weapon Ultra, but he has an energy sword. And that's it. That's all I did with him. Then next up, I took that and remember when I made the joke about what if there were like CIA agents who were training to manipulate like all the different colored energies? And I was like, was the government just training like rainbow magicians or whatever? Like that was my joke. And remember how I mentioned how the energy bar tool, they mentioned sometimes looks like a tool from Star Wars, clearly saying that like, and your energy bar tool might just look like a lightsaber or something. I ran with that. So Weapon Ultra is a CIA agent within like his original origin. And in the last video, I think I commented on how Weapon Ultra being a CIA agent works really well with trying to do like a period piece story about like Weapon Ultra being a CIA agent in the 1980s and him being selected as someone who's trained in like the gateway process. I feel like you could tell really interesting stories about the gateway process through Weapon Ultra. Then again, I think you can connect anything to Weapon Ultra, and I have been just actively connecting anything to Weapon Ultra that I can. But I think this is a good way to do so. I have mixed feelings about how this one turned out. Very colorful. This actually isn't the original that I made. The original that I made had everywhere where you're seeing like yellow and green was originally red and orange, and everywhere where you're seeing red and orange was originally yellow and green. So I originally had that flipped, and I didn't like how it looked, and I was like, it would look better if I like changed those color placements, and then I did. And I like this more than what we had before, but I don't know if it's like good. You know what I mean? Like, I prefer it over the original one, but I'm not sure if I necessarily think it is cool or not. I do kind of like it though. Like, it's unique. None of the other Weapon Ultras are this colorful at all. And the last few aren't colorful at all. Like, the last few I did were like black and white. So it's really interesting to jump from making like this Rainbow Magician Weapon Ultra to making like entirely black and white Weapon Ultras. But we'll go on that journey together as I click to the next one. I think the next one's just going to be the rainbow symbol I put on his chest, just as its own image. Okay, so this is the non-copyright version of Weapon Ultra if he was a member of the Incredibles. And I actually love how this one turned out. And remember, I'm like drawing the logos myself. I think I did a damn good job at drawing the Incredibles logo. I was like, ooh, that looks pretty spot on. Like, I think I got it. And keep in mind, this is Microsoft Paint. But I think it works. And this was the first one where I was like, the Incredibles explicitly are like, no capes. And Edna Mode designed the Weapon Ultra suit, or I guess modified the symbiote so that he was like a member of the Incredibles. She'd be like, get rid of that cape. Get rid of just, I don't know how, maybe I'll like amputate it. No cape on your symbiote. And I think he looks cool. He like, in a way, reminds me of like Batman Beyond with his like color scheme. But his colors are also pulled directly from like the Incredibles, just like how all the colors are pulled directly from their source images. And this is the first one I did where I colored the briefs. All the other ones, the legs and the brief part are the same color. So essentially there are no briefs. But the Incredibles, I didn't notice this before, they all have like the black briefs or whatever. So I had to make sure to add that separation here. And I think this worked out really well. Like, this is one that I'm like actually kind of proud of. Like, I really like how this turned out. Moving forward from here, this is just the Incredibles logo. Masterpiece. I just really like it. I think it looks really crisp and really clean. From Microsoft Paint Incredibles logo. I think it's pretty accurate. Moving forward from there. Oh, okay. This is Weapon Ultra with his fist closed so that he can hold items with no cape. So I was like, instead of every time I want to make Weapon Ultra without his cape, having to take the base image and then remove the cape, I'm like, let me just have a version of the base image where he doesn't have a cape. So I can use this, and then from here, make any other capeless variant of Weapon Ultra. Moving on from there, so here's the non-copyright version of Weapon Ultra as the Punisher. And he has that like black and white Punisher color scheme. And he has these really crudely drawn guns. And then here he is with a Punisher skull that I drew The Punisher skull, while I was drawing it, I thought looked really weird. And to be honest, when I looked at like the normal Punisher logo, have you guys noticed that it looks like a very crudely drawn skull? I never thought about it, but it doesn't look like a like well-proportioned symmetrical skull. Like I think the whole idea is that it's supposed to look like a spray painted like skull symbol. But I think I've seen like bumper stickers and stuff where the Punisher skull is symmetrical, like where it does look kind of clean and crisp with like rounded, like with that, I don't know how to talk, like with like a rounded skull. So in my mind, initially, I was like, oh, this is going to be like really simple to draw. And then once I saw it, I was like, oh, it's like really crude looking. And I was like, I wonder how well I can capture this like crude looking skull without it looking stupid. The end product looks really good, but I'm going to show you like what the skull looked like before I put it on his chest. So this is the skull I drew. And I looked at this and I was like, that doesn't look right. Like that's not going to look right when I put it on his chest. And then I put it on his chest and I'm like, oh, that looks great. Like that looks how I would have wanted it to look. So it just ended up working out. But this is like the Punisher variation of Weapon Ultra that I drew. I think we're almost to the end of these like Weapon Ultra arts. Next up, he's got the little Spider-Man fingers going on, but he doesn't have thumbs, so it's just this. So it's more like a rock and roll thing, I guess. But this is, and this one's kind of lame. I'll be honest. It's supposed to be like Weapon Ultra if it was like the Venom symbiote. But I don't know. I don't really like how this one turned out. It's very lame. It's very lame. I don't know. I don't feel like I was able to really capture the Venom spider well. I don't know. I'm not like particularly proud of it. I'm still gonna share it with you guys, but it's not my best work. I think the coolest part of this one is that the spider fangs, I think, kind of work with Weapon Ultra's weird, like, collar or whatever. Like, the fangs point up in a similar way to, like, this part of his body, like, points up, like, his part of the suit. And it looks like it was meant for that. And his suit already has this, like, M line that goes across it, but it looks like the legs that are normally on, like, the Venom symbol. And I'm like, that's cool. But all the additional legs I made are just, like, crudely drawn, like, just white lines. And then the neck is, like, skinnier than it's supposed to be. If you look at the symbol, the neck of the symbol is actually, like, wider. And if you look at an image that I did that's just of the symbol, it's like, it looks like a little demon guy, like without the legs and everything. I thought that was interesting, like while I was trying to draw it out. But was that the last one? I think that was the last one I did. Yep. So that's the last of the Weapon Ultra like fan art that I made today. So I spent a good bit of today just like brainstorming different ideas of what I wanted to draw and just drawing all these different characters. I do think it's cool to draw Weapon Ultra and be like, just give them a thing. I might draw more of that in the future. Like instead of necessarily saying, what if Weapon Ultra was like a member of the X-Men? I could be like, what if Weapon Ultra had like X item or whatever, and just like, then it becomes more about drawing the item than it does about drawing Weapon Ultra. But I still think that could be like cool. I probably want to do that more. Because I look at this and I'm like, ooh, it takes it from just being like Weapon Ultra posing to like, maybe he's about to enter a fight. What is he saying when he like holds the energy sword? It makes me think about like story possibilities. Similar to like seeing Weapon Ultra like with two guns. Is he about to fuck some shit up? What's going on? Like I like seeing him with equipment. Let me know like if you want to see me try and draw specific Weapon Ultra fan art, like what you would like to see. Like what should I try and like blend with Weapon Ultra next? And let me know if you want me to share like any of these pieces on the Discord. Like if you want to like see the image as like an image file, and maybe play around with like any of these images. feel free to hit me up, and I can like post them on the Discord for you guys to like look at and play with. I think that could be cool, and I would love to see your Weapon Ultra fan art on our Discord. Now that we've talked about the Weapon Ultra art, let's talk about my plans for tomorrow. Tomorrow's Sunday. I don't really have plans. Like, I'm gonna message with friends. So every week I like to spend like some recreational money. So I put aside like $60 each week to just spend on whatever I want. And I used to spend it every Monday. Like, I used to, at the start of the week, be like, okay, it's Monday. If I'm gonna like get a game on like the PlayStation Store or like buy something on Amazon, there's like the time to do it. But then what I realized is that doing it on Monday doesn't have any real purpose. And if you get paid like every other Friday or whatever, you know that you'll have like more than enough money for it. And really, I have more than enough money anyways. Like, it doesn't matter like when I get paid. Monday was just an arbitrary time, and I learned that it was kind of unfortunate because if I order something on Amazon, I don't have Amazon Prime. There's no guarantee that I'm gonna get whatever I ordered like within like a 2-day delivery span. So if I ordered something on Amazon, per se, well, not, I don't know why I said per se, for example, then if I order it on Monday, I may not get it until like near the end of the week anyways. So it's like you spend your recreational money for the week on something that you just aren't guaranteed to receive within that week. So then if whatever you were going to buy was supposed to entertain you for that week, it like fails to do so. And by the time you're trying to figure out what you want to buy next, you may not have even received the thing that you bought last time. So I was like, that's not really that cool. But I was like, if I start trying to buy it on Fridays, so every Friday you spend the $60, then maybe it'll arrive sooner. Like if I get something on Amazon, so then I'll receive it and be able to use it within like a timely manner. I was like, that could be cool. So I've been thinking about that. Like, what do I want to buy? And I could get like Mortal Kombat 11 Aftermath. I would love to be able to play that with my friend Isaiah, and to actually finish that story, because I played Mortal Kombat 11 in its entirety at my mom's house before all this pandemic stuff started, like last year, around my birthday. But I don't own Mortal Kombat 11. But if I got Aftermath, it would give me the opportunity to not only own Mortal Kombat 11, but to finish the expansion and to enjoy all the other additional content, like maybe get some of the DLC or to be able to play online with friends who have it. So that's something I've been considering. Star Wars Fallen Order, I've seen a lot of good... Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. I've seen a lot of good reviews for that. I've heard that it's like a good Souls-like game that isn't medieval fantasy based, and if you like sci-fi and you like Souls-likes, then it's like made for you. And it has a story-based difficulty to where if you decide you just want to play casually and enjoy the story, that you can kind of like breeze through the game if you want to. I know a lot of people look down on stuff like that, but with all the other stuff that I do now, sometimes when I play a game, I don't want it to be like a multiple hour commitment kind of thing. Like, I'm sure even the story difficulty, where it's focused more on telling you a story than being challenging, it's still multiple hours long, I'm sure, but sometimes you just want something entertaining to do that isn't a big commitment, so that you still have time to do other stuff that you enjoy. So I might get Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order just to give me something else to do that's like entertaining. And I like certain elements of Star Wars that I don't know whether or not they're like featured in the game. Because the thing that ignited my like passion, if you can call it that, my interest is more like it, for Star Wars, was that I watched Solo, a Star Wars story, and it talked about like sentient AI rights and like droid rights, and it took me down this like rabbit hole of just stuff I like trying to dig deeper into droid rights within the Star Wars universe. Made me go, oh, this is so cool, and they should play with it more within universe. Oh man, like now I'm in a position where I want to see more stories that focus on droids who care about like droid rights and are trying to like fight for droid rights, and even non-droid characters that care about droid rights, which I'm not even sure if I can name many, if any, that do care about like sentient droid rights. So as far as I know, in the same way that like Solo, like nothing about Solo on the surface made it seem like it was going to have anything to do with like droid rights. Maybe Jedi Fallen Order has like a side quest or something where you like help a droid who's struggling with like droid rights, or maybe you do like a mission for like the droid Gotra or something. Like there could just be something related to droid rights in Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order that I just don't know about, or something that like has a super small connection to droid rights that I would be interested in seeing just for its existence, that maybe someone else might have overlooked. Like if they make mention of like personality chips, or if the droid Gotra comes up like at all, stuff like that. I could get hype over that. That could be something that I'm like interested in seeing more of. Or if there are any like significant astromech characters, because the astromechs are interesting. But Jedi Fallen Order is a game that I'm interested in potentially buying with like my recreational money of last week. But I haven't committed to anything yet. Code Vein is like a Souls-like that's anime based, and you can create your own custom character. And I'm like, oh man, custom characters. I could try and make like Weapon Ultra and a Souls-like. So far, I've tried a few Souls-likes, and by a few, I just mean like 2. I tried Dark Souls 3, and I tried Nioh, and Nioh wasn't bad, but it didn't grab me enough to where I wanted to like play it a ton. And Dark Souls 3 just felt like a video game. I know that sounds weird, but it felt very generic to me. Like it just felt like a game. I feel like there's a lot of hype about it, and people talk about how hard it is. I didn't even necessarily think it was like super hard. It just felt like a pretty standard game. Yeah, like it. Like there are other more interesting games that I've played that I want to go back to, like Streets of Rogue. That game's like cool as fuck. I never hear people talk about Streets of Rogue, but people talk about like Souls-likes all the time, and there are new Souls-likes coming out all the time. Where are my like Streets of Rogue likes? These like very open-ended roguelike games where you can customize your character and you can go on these crazy adventures where you have objectives, but you can accomplish these objectives in any way you want, and they're like these experiences that you can play on your own, but you can also play them with friends online, and you can do like party chats where you're talking about it and you're all in the same world, and like you have these procedurally generated rooms, and you can level up your characters, and you can work cooperatively to accomplish goals and all this other shit. Like Streets of Rogue, I feel like is such an underrated game, and it's really good. And I'm trying to get into Souls-likes because I think the concept behind Souls-likes are interesting, but none of the Souls-likes that I've played have been particularly interesting. I don't know if there's like a Souls-like for me yet. I want a superhero one, if anything. But I do like anime, and I do like kinda like Star Wars. And Code Vein's cheaper, actually. It's like at a heavier discount. Like Jedi Fallen Order, I think is like $40 right now in the PlayStation Store, and Code Vein, I think, is like $30 right now in the PlayStation Store. So if I get Code Vein, I still have enough money to get like a whole other game if I want to, like another like $30 game. But if I get like Jedi Fallen Order, I have like $20 to spare, and like what am I gonna do with the $20? You know what I mean? But also Code Vein, to me, it just has like an anime static. Like, it's cool that you can make a custom character, because I don't know of a lot of these like Souls-like games where you can make custom characters. Let me know if you know, like in the comment section below. I mean, technically, in Dark Souls 3, I made like a custom character. You know what I mean? So I might be wrong. Maybe that's a common thing. Maybe you make a custom character most of the time. There's customization in Neo. As a matter of fact, there's probably not a Souls-like game that I've played where there isn't customization. But that being said, from what I've heard, Code Vein's customization is a little bit deeper. Like you're changing more elements about the character. But even then, I'm not sure if that's true. I've never put my hands on Code Vein. Like I don't know if I can really speak to that or not. But Code Vein's story sounds like it's like a post-apocalyptic thing. And post-apocalyptic fiction is something I've never really cared about. Similar to like medieval fantasy. Like medieval fantasy is like post-apocalyptic is like I think sci-fi is cooler, but even then I'm still kind of on certain sci-fi. My interest in Star Trek has kind of grown a little bit. There are episodes of Star Trek that talk about like sentient AI rights, and I'm like, that's my whole thing. I really like that. So that's cool. And I'm learning more and more that Star Trek is more of like a philosophical show. Like they talk a lot about like important questions about like society and history and humanity. Like it's a deep thing. And I'm kind of interested in that, but I feel like Star Trek might suffer from the same issue that I have with like Black Mirror. So I like discussing really interesting like philosophical topics and like thought experiments and stuff like that, but I don't always like how they're portrayed in fiction, because I in particular am a big fan of like faster paced media. I like stuff that's like action packed, and it's good to have suspense, but you can have suspenseful action. And there are certain genres that lean closer to being like slower paced stories that like build up suspense, but the build up isn't being associated with any like enjoyable spectacle, enjoyable being relative to the kind of stuff that I look for, like superpowers and like exciting like action scenes and stuff like that. And I feel like Star Trek may talk about a lot of like cool stuff that I would love to see like explored in fiction and to like talk about with my friends. But I feel like the way that that cool stuff is portrayed in the story may just be too slow paced to keep my attention. Like I feel like if I sat down to watch a good bit of Star Trek, I might find myself getting distracted and wanting to look into like other things. I have seen a few episodes of Next Generation. That's been the one Star Trek show that I've had like some success with, like sitting down and like watching like a full episode of Next Generation. But whenever like OG Star Trek has been on TV, back when I used to like live with my parents and mom would like turn on the Sci-Fi Channel or something, I've never looked at like OG Star Trek for like more than maybe a minute before like I go, okay, there's just other stuff I could do right now. But I don't know, who knows? Maybe my thoughts on all this will change in the future. Maybe I'd like the comic book. You know, that could be a thing. They did a crossover with Green Lantern. Maybe I could check that out. You know, who knows? But my plans for tomorrow, I'm going to pick up my laundry from Dad's, message with friends, and then just enjoy like the last day of my weekend before I have to go back to work. But that's mainly my plans. But anyways, enough about my plans for tomorrow. Thank you all for tuning in. Let me do my outro. If you guys like this video, make sure to smash that like button, favorite, comment, subscribe, and ding ding ding, ring the notification bell. You're notified whenever we do these videos. Make sure that if you did hit the notification bell, to set it to all notifications, because YouTube, if you just hit the bell but you don't set it to all, it may not actually notify you when the videos come out. I apologize that this video was delayed. I ended up deciding to just put the 10th and the 11th together into like one big video rather than doing one video about the 10th and one video about the 11th. And I apologize because I did an update that was saying that the 10th video was going to come out like this afternoon or something. And I never did an update saying like, no, I'm just going to do a big video. So I apologize for that. I mainly today have been focused on doing like a lot of this artwork, messaging with like friends a little bit, stuff like that. So it slipped my mind. I have a Smoothie King smoothie that's on its way. It'll be here at 10:45 a.m., which is around the time I plan on waking up. I've been ordering a smoothie from Smoothie King every day. Quick fun fact about Smoothie King, if you order from DoorDash, I just learned today that if you say, oh, I don't want bananas, and they show you like a list of things you can substitute in place of bananas, they use checkboxes instead of radio buttons. Amateur move, Smoothie King. So in case you don't know the difference, and I guess I'll put in the outro / Smoothie King fun fact. So in case you don't know the difference between like radio buttons and checkboxes, for radio buttons you're given like a list of options and you can only pick one option. So radio buttons normally have like a circle next to each list item, and if you click the circle, it fills in the circle and you can only pick that option. If you choose any other option in that list, it'll deselect it, so the circle will like empty out and then it'll fill in the other circle. I think a lot of people think that radio buttons and checkboxes are like the same thing, but they're not supposed to be, but they can be. So checkboxes are supposed to be, you can pick as many options as you want. So you can check off multiple boxes, and it allows you to like pick a whole bunch of things. Like if someone asked you what do you want on a pizza, you wouldn't want radio buttons, you'd want check boxes if you want more than one topping. Like if you want to get like pepperoni and green peppers, if you have check boxes, you can check pepperoni and you can check green peppers. But if you have radio buttons, you could like only order green peppers, or you could only order pepperoni. So Smoothie King, they have it set up where you order smoothies that have set ingredients, but then you can sub any of those ingredients you don't want for like a replacement ingredient. But what I've learned is that because they use check boxes instead of radio buttons, it should be possible for you to game the system and order a smoothie that should be really expensive for like no additional charge. So when you're picking your ingredients, like if you want to add extra ingredients to a smoothie, it's like $1.25 per additional ingredient. But if you go, I don't want bananas, it'll list you a whole bunch of ingredients that you can substitute for bananas. And because they use checkboxes instead of radio buttons, you can start substituting multiple things for bananas. So you can say, I don't want bananas, but add like almond butter, and add like mangoes, and add like all these things that normally would cost you $1.25 per are now just a part of your like base order cost, because you're just substituting the stuff. It's like, no, I didn't order extra. I just want all of that instead of bananas. Like, so you can kind of style on them a little bit. Because I'm really interested in, like I'm a cybersecurity research engineer. I'm really interested in like how people can exploit systems like that and essentially abuse things, especially when it comes to like, things you do on the web or things you do with technology. I feel like if I were to start exploiting that, they would change it to radio buttons real quick. Like, I don't know what I want to get, but I'm tempted to get something, and to load it up, just hit those check boxes. Because whenever you substitute, like I mentioned before, whenever you like substitute an item, it doesn't change your total. And I know that they want to charge you more for getting extra stuff, because that's why they have that extra section where they have them all listed. So you know it's not intentional. You know that they wanted radio buttons, But whoever's working at DoorDash who like made that web form fucked up. They put the check boxes and they let me check multiple things. I'm ready. I'm ready to exploit it. But I don't know if I will. I'm not sure if that would cause complications with my order or not. Like, I'm curious, because DoorDash, I feel fairly confident, would allow me to do that. I think they would be like, yeah, and we sent the order in, Smoothie King will make it. But I think Smoothie King might receive that and go, the fuck? What did he do? How did they could be like, this is costing us money because we're like using more ingredients than we should be on the smoothie. What's happening? And I think if I did it maybe even just once, it would lead to an issue. Like, either that order isn't complete and they're like, hey, there's not enough money to support that, or they do complete that order and Smoothie King complains to DoorDash. They go, you fucked up. We spent too much money on like this one nigga smoothie. You gotta fix it. But we'll see what happens. Anyways, thank you all for watching. I guess I'm doing the outro all over again. If you guys like this video, make sure to smash that like button, favorite, comment, subscribe, and ring the notification bell to be notified whenever we do these videos. Charge for me, boy. Jeff Black, one only, log out. Feel free to hit me up on the Discord if you want to talk about any of this stuff further, or just leave a comment in the comment section below. And if you want to check out any of the things that I discussed in this video, feel free to click on the links in the description. Thank you all once again, and peace. Chicka-da-ga.